All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be touching on this big Wednesday slate that we have. There's so much injury news to get into. Hopefully we can touch on everything. Kind of what are your initial thoughts for this slate, Chuck?
Well, first thoughts where it's Bobby Portis and Karis LeVert chalk day in the same day. It's a beautiful thing. I thought if Embiid gets ruled out, we're also going to have Paul Reed chalk day. But now we have Jaylen Brown and Porzingis just got ruled out. Kyrie Irving just got ruled out. So looks like Luka's probably going to be kind of chalky. I mean, he's a little bit more expensive, so it's harder to get there. But interested to see what the model's going to do with the Boston guys.
Yeah, honestly, we kind of just need to wait and see kind of what the model updates to today, because there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And I just want to take a quick peek at just in general, what are the best values on the model right now? Just to start off, it's Beauchamp. And so as a Bucks fan, I kind of actually agree with that. We'll see. He's coming in pretty chalky, but it kind of depends on who's starting there, I would say, for the Bucks. But let's just go ahead and start out with the Bucks. That's kind of the injury news that we already have, and then we can move on from there. So we'll start out with the Bucks. Giannis is out. We'll see kind of what the chalk is here. So yeah, go ahead if you have any takes on the Bucks here.
Or Eric's live.
You can't hear me, Chuck, or can you? Can you hear me fine, Chuck? Or no?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
that's so weird. So yeah, let's just talk about the Bucks to start off. So injury wise, obviously Giannis is out. A lot of the ownership is going to Marjon Beauchamp, then Brook Lopez, Beasley. Actually, just kind of all of them. Now, first and foremost, do we think that's going to change? And then secondly, who would we be prioritizing here?
I feel like at least on DraftKings, Beauchamp and Connaughton being under 4K, because now everyone's going to try to jam in Luka and maybe Jason Tatum. We'll have to see how that goes. But I mean, these guys are cheap. They're in line for bigger minutes. I haven't been a huge fan of Beauchamp, but his minutes have been more consistent, and he's doing pretty well. His usage should be up. The interesting spot is Malik Beasley. He's a little bit more expensive, and he might be a little more volatile than Beauchamp. But at 2% ownership, I think that's worth taking a couple shots. But Beauchamp is probably the spot, assuming he starts. Obviously, we're very interested in Bobby Portis on both sites. His price is a little bit too cheap for having Giannis out. And then Chris Middleton at 56 and 5,400 at 4 and 6% ownership. That's a spot I'm a little bit interested in. He's been on a minutes limit. Maybe they bump him up to 25 minutes. And if he plays 25 minutes at that low ownership, that's a spot I'm willing to get to.
Yeah, honestly, if he gets he's projected at 21 minutes, he could still get to like 30 fantasy points with that. But yeah, if he got 25 minutes, if we got lucky with that, he could somewhat break the slate and go for 37 or so. Like, he's been a high usage rate player when he's on the court for sure. Where should we go to next? Obviously, we have a lot of injury news, I guess. Where do you feel like you have the best input on injury news as it sits right now?
Probably Dallas. But before we leave the Bucks, for some reason, Andre Jackson is a little bit interesting to me at the flat min price. He could be in line for more minutes. It's better with Dame out for him, but just someone to keep in mind. He's predicted for 0% ownership, so this is a 150 max play. But I just wanted to mention him. And then Brook Lopez pulling the ownership. As long as Bobby Portis is starting, I would think he's in line for a few more minutes. He won't have Bobby Portis backing him up, so with Giannis out, Brook Lopez could be a good spot. But this ownership, I mean, his price is great, but the ownership's a little bit high.
So was that confirmed that Portis is going to? I mean, obviously Drake Crowder being out doesn't help, but I guess with Middleton on a minutes limit, that's the only real logical thing. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to Dallas then. So Dallas. So Kyrie Irving was ruled out. So Luka at 12K on both sites is not pulling in that much ownership. Is that a mistake or is that correct?
I feel like that's going to come up, especially we're going to have a couple decent pieces of value. It's not going to be hard to fit him in. If it stays around this, I'm definitely going to be over the field on Luka Doncic today. It's a very high total against Washington. I'm interested in the Washington side too. We have a 245 total. You don't see that too much. We might get to 240, 241 in some games, but 245 is very high. They're expecting a fast-paced game. And so if we're doing something like starting our builds with Luka Doncic and Kyle Kuzma, wearing my Kuzmania shirt. Big fan of that. And as for the value pieces, I think people are going to be pretty interested in Derek Jones. His ownership should come up. His price is much higher not much higher, but it's higher on DraftKings
Yeah.
than it is on FanDuel. It's been coming up. It's about $1,000 more than we'd like to see for Derek Jones Jr., but I think he's fine. But if his ownership comes up, I kind of like pivoting to Grant Williams. I've been talking about him on stream. His usage rate is very low, but if he hits a few threes, gets a stock or two, then that should really help him. Tim Hardaway at his prices, I'm not as interested.
Yeah.
So kind of want to go deep in the well here and get to Dante Exum and Jaden Hardy a little bit. Dante Exum's been in the rotation more, and with Kyrie Irving out, should be good for him. Seth Curry might be, like, I'm talking about Dante Exum and saying Seth Curry might be. All these guys are in play, I think, in GPPs.
Yeah. What about Derek Lively? Because he's projected to get 30 minutes in this game going against Washington. To me, that's pretty appealing, especially at like 5.2. We could be getting some that puts up 28 or so fantasy points. Maybe not an elite play, but I feel like at 1%, that's too low. I would imagine he would have been like 6% given the matchup and given the projected minutes.
Oh, that's a great call. Yeah, do not mind getting to Derek Lively today, especially. So we just got an update that Tobias Harris will play. He almost had a concussion yesterday, dealing with a neck thing, and then Joel Embiid is still a game time decision. So if Paul Reed ends up the super chalk, Paul Reed, like, he's going to be a great play. But Derek Lively, either way, at these ownerships, that's a pretty good spot, I think, in GPPs. I'm going to be over the field on that 3 and 1%.
Yeah, I like that. And we'll kind of just pivot to Philly just real quick news-wise. So nothing too crazy. I mean, we know that Kelly Oubre and Batum are both out, so that's going to mean someone like DeAnthony Melton's somewhat still interesting tonight. Joel Embiid, it's a little bit too cheap, but his production doesn't change too much. Tobias Harris gets a slight bump. Maxi's a little bit too high priced. And now we don't have to worry about playing Robert Covington, which is probably the big piece of news.
Yeah, I didn't love Robert Covington yesterday. I was under the field, but now
you nailed that.
I mean, with this price, got kind of lucky on the Champagne getting the blowout run and like 12 steals and blocks. But Joel, so yeah, we're not touching Robert Covington today. Like, it's not even like overpaying for a guy. Maybe he does something. It just, what's he going to do? What are we expecting? Like, maybe if Joel Embiid's out, maybe the model updates and shows something. But even then, like, just play Paul Reed, and then. If Joel Embiid's in, though, I think I've been overlooking him a little bit. I haven't really been talking about him or mentioning him as like a good GPP play. But if these ownership percentages hold and he's in, I think that's a pretty good spot to get to today.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. Let's go ahead and just move on into kind of another injury situation as well. The Boston Celtics, I mean, it might be a little bit more difficult to break this down, but we'll give it an attempt here. So Boston's going to be without Brown and Porzingis. Did that break right before we started going live, or has that been something that's been out?
They were questionable all day, but it happened 9 minutes ago. I expected Brown not to play, but I was really hoping Porzingis would play. I really like that spot today because now we have to make decisions on probably chalky Al Horford, which is never a fun thing to do. But Jason Tatum, I mean, great pay up. His price is too cheap for the expected role he's going to have without Jaylen Brown and Porzingis on the court. We saw a pretty good floor of about 50 fantasy points from Tatum. And he's mostly shown that this season, but last season, just the increased usage should be awesome for him. I'm hoping his ownership stays below 10%. It's probably going to come up from the 3% and 1% that I'm seeing right now. And then I'm wondering if Derek White and Drew Holiday go a little bit overlooked. I know they're pulling a little bit of ownership on FanDuel, but these are both pretty good spots.
Yeah, I would have imagined, I know it's a bigger slate and we already have a lot of injury news, but I would have thought that they'd be both a little bit higher. I mean, that's been the issue with the Celtics this season. They go almost 4.5 deep, I say, with like Derek White, but now you're taking away two of those big high usage rate players. Like Drew Holiday should almost, I don't want to say locked at value, but he in theory should be. Obviously you have Al Horford there. I do think that he's an interesting play. Obviously he's going to pull more ownership now. That's going to update here in a second. What are your thoughts on Pritchard and Hauser though? Both of them I would say would be GPP only plays. Any like for them on the slate where maybe we can fit a lot of studs and duds? Like Pritchard could be someone I'm thinking about playing maybe in the shooting guard spot to obviously pay up for some studs.
So Jaylen Brown is a shooting guard, but he's been starting at the 3 with Derek White and Drew Holiday in the starting lineup. And so Pritchard, I'm more interested playing when Derek White or Drew Holiday's out, just more potential for those backup minutes. Sam Hauser, though, I have a feeling he could move into the starting lineup. I feel like it's going to be Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Sam Hauser. We'll have to see what Boston does. But Sam Hauser, I think, is the guy that I'm more interested in there. His price is still a little higher than I'd like to pay, but it's actually probably appropriate if he is in the starting lineup. We haven't predicted for 26 minutes, so can get hot from three, and it's not a bad spot.
Yeah, so that's just a situation where whichever one's starting, we're probably favoring a little bit more, and assuming it's going to be Hauser.
Yeah, I mean, Pritchard's going to play off the bench, and if his ownership stays low at 3,600 on DK, he's going to help us fit in some of these. Like, there's a lot of studs we're very interested in playing today, so I don't mind him as a deep GPP play, but he is not the priority on this team.
So I do want to get into some other kind of injury news. I'll mention Toronto in passing. Dennis Schroeder is currently questionable. That could be a big thing. Gary Trent Jr., OG are both listed as out. So Otto Porter's was an interesting value. I don't know if we need to play him. I just want to, we'll get into that as it goes. We'll quickly touch on Orlando as well. So Orlando, we got news that Markelle Fultz is going to be out, and then also still Wendell Carter. I don't think the plays changed too much. I do want to mention, though, Gary Harris is going to be active. He's at 3.2. To me, that kind of seems like an oversight for a guy that was playing about 20 minutes. Is he someone we could potentially, I don't think we need to do it now, but is that someone we could still maybe be thinking about playing? I know the data doesn't love it too much, but if he gets 20 minutes, like he could get 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, and the dummy build I was playing with earlier, I was trying to absolutely jam in like Luka AD and one of the other pay-ups, I think Donovan Mitchell, and I had Gary Harris in there. I mean, he's 3,200 and 3,700. Yeah. It's not a great play, but I mean, he's 3,200. We don't have any deep value. My problem with this game overall, so we know DeRozan's out for the Bulls. Like I just mentioned that Washington-Dallas game, the total is 245. We'll have to see if that changes with the Kyrie news being ruled out. I feel like that was already baked in, though. But this total is 216.5. That's 30 points. Like, that is gigantic. So I think we can still get to some pieces from this game. I'm still interested in Banchero. I think his price is great with Fultz out. And then a couple guys on Chicago. But for the most part, I don't think this is the game to target.
Yeah, so let's mention that just real quick. So I was looking at the data with DeMar DeRozan off the court. It's not like too significant in terms of like shifting usage to Zach LaVine or really anyone. And we know that Alex Caruso is going to be active. To me, I would almost like Caruso or even like Patrick Williams the most, given their price tags. But even that seems too thin. Like, I know you just said the game is not as appealing as the other game, and I agree. Like, I don't know, these ownerships seem a little bit too high to me for LaVine and for Vucevic. What are your kind of thoughts there?
Unfortunately, I am getting to Patrick Williams. I mean, we see 25% and 18% ownership, but he's cheap value. He's under 4K on DraftKings, 4,300 on FanDuel, so he helps us fit in the studs that we really want to play today. And then I still like Vooch, but it's going to be a little harder to get there. I mean, he's a little chalky. And then Zach LaVine, I feel like he's kind of going to be forgotten today. I'm kind of avoiding him. Just other guys I'd rather get to. Kobe White's price is still fine. And so there's some pieces, and Caruso under 10%, I think that's fine too. So there's pieces on the Bulls side I'm interested in, but I'm going to try to keep it light in my exposures.
So we did get a question real quickly from Jose, kind of asking which games are we going to be concentrating on. And I'll just answer this question for Chuck. We typically don't like to overexpose ourselves to any game or stack any game, right? Like what we'd like to do, maybe you could set a rule if you're really trying to target a game to include at least one or two players from that. But all in all, focus on the value first, the studs first, and then maybe prioritize a game. Did I get that right? Or spot on there?
Yeah, that was perfect. I think every game has some players that we're interested in today, right? You know, I mentioned Dallas, Washington, high total, and then the Knicks Atlanta game is pretty interesting with Trae Young coming back. Not as interested now with the recent news, but Sacramento and Lakers is another spot I'm very interested in too.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get into one other piece of injury news. Cleveland. So Cleveland, we got news that Garland is going to sit in this game. And so kind of lucky enough, we're not like we have a lot of injury news. So Donovan Mitchell's not too chalk. I guess I don't know if that's lucky because he's 9.1. First and foremost, do you want to be on Donovan Mitchell at 9.1 pulling in 34 and 30% ownership? Or is that maybe a little bit too high priced?
I'm wondering if his ownership comes in a little bit lower, risk of
Yeah.
blowout playing Portland, and with the other news we just got, maybe it makes some of the other options more attractive. But Donovan Mitchell is always a guy I'm going to be interested in when he's around this 9K price. FanDuel, it's a little bit tougher to get there. I think he's 9,700, but 9,100 on DraftKings sounds awesome to me. And so I'm hoping his ownership comes down a little bit. I'll probably be. I need to rerun my stuff because a whole bunch of stuff just happened, so I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And we just got another piece of injury news. RJ Barrett ruled out with migraine. So Josh
Wow.
Hart is another good piece of value that we can get back to today. And Quickly had a bad game. So if people are scared to play Quickly, I think he's another GPP spot as well.
Yeah, and like Jalen Brunson to me becomes a better play there as well. Just RJ Barrett is chucking up so many shots that Brunson's going to need to get a few more shots up. And yeah, Josh Hart's kind of the easy click there. Maybe Grimes gets a little bit of push, maybe even Chinzo. But I would say, yeah, those two, Josh Hart and Brunson, are the two I want to be getting the most of. This is a crazy slate already.
Yeah, and Jalen Brunson, I think maybe it changed, but his over under PRA was 34.5 earlier. And if you just equate that to his price, I mean, that's basically value. If he does any better, then he's going to be an awesome play. And then I was interested in Julius because he seems to have turned it around, but there's just so many spots. Like Julius and Cat are very similar to me. I'm interested in both, but I have to rerun everything now. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get to.
I gotcha. And then, is there any other piece of injury news that you want to touch on before we get into the guards?
I think we hit on most of them. We'll see what comes out. I mean, the Embiid news is slate changing as well. So well, we just gotta wait and see, I guess.
All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get to the guard plays, sorted by DraftKings guards as always. So we kind of mentioned that
I lost you again.
You did? All right. Well, we'll stick to the other slide then. So whatever, we're on guards, guys. So we kind of mentioned that we're probably going to be trying to pay up at the guards. Luka, like we can easily, I don't want to say easily, but Luka, I think we can fit into our builds. We also have Donovan Mitchell there in a great spot. Probably staying away from Trae Young, probably staying away from Booker, given their price tags. De'Aaron Fox is at a good price tag. Lillard's probably in a decent spot. And then Jalen Brunson's now a good play. Zach LaVine potentially. We just have a lot of good plays now. Where would you say your starting point is guard-wise tonight? Let's start with that.
Unfortunately, I think it's Luka. Very interested in Luka. High total game. It seems like a really easy jam to play a lot of Luka. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's a lot of guards that can put up 50 tonight, but Luka's probably the only one that can put up. I know Donovan Mitchell can do it too, but who else can put up 70 besides Luka? And then in the mid range, I'm not sure how interested I am in Karis LeVert anymore. Because I know I'd rather play Bobby Portis if I have to pick one of these guys. Like I thought that these two were going to be the starting point of my builds today. Are you still on Karis?
I still think he's a good play. I think it really depends on the ownership. Like at 27 on DraftKings, I'm perfectly fine eating that. I would say 50% on FanDuel is where I would start to hesitate a little bit. But I mean, it's a good price tag. Like I wouldn't want to talk anyone out of it. I still think he's going to be someone that hits value. He's someone that does see an increase, but it's kind of one of those things where almost if you are fading him, you might want to get to Max Strus. Honestly, like one of those two should step up and have a better game. Obviously, Strus is not as appealing, but yeah, I would say at 27% right now, and that's probably going to come down right with all the news that we're getting. So I'll probably still be liking him as a play, especially on DraftKings. FanDuel, I could be talked out of that.
Yeah, I just reran, and I don't know that I have everything the way that I'm going to want it with the news, but I'm getting about 20% Karis, which is a lot less than I expected, and I like that Max Strus pivot call. It's that's a good spot too.
I do kind of want to mention Jordan Poole here because he is pulling in some ownership. When I was doing kind of some prop stuff earlier, his points, rebounds, and assists was set at 24.5. It was kind of favoring the under pretty heavily. As the day progressed, I guess it got a lot of volume for the over. And so now it's basically 50-50. And so I think that's echoed here by 13% ownership and 18% ownership. What are we doing with Jordan Poole? Because he finally had a good game last game. This is obviously going to be an appealing game as well. To me, I thought I'd want to be on Tyus Jones a little bit more, who's pulling in 12% ownership on both sides. Or is it kind of just, we still don't love Washington too much? We're only looking at Kuzma.
I think I mentioned Poole on the last show that when he's low ownership, it's kind of a poor way to think about it, but he has to have a good game eventually, right? And I'd rather hit him at, like, it's going to happen when he's low owned versus when he's chalk. It's like So he had a decent game. He had 35 fantasy points, I think, but
Yeah.
Washington didn't score a real life point for like the last 7 minutes, which is bizarre.
Mhm.
Poole should have been a smash on the last slate. He ended up like barely giving us value. It doesn't kill our lineups. It's not going to help us win a tournament.
Yeah.
12 and 18% though. I mean, it's a high total. So I still like him as a GPV play, but I would like him a lot more if he was under 10%. But
Yeah.
he's going to be in my player pool. I'm going to try to make sure I mix him in a little bit, but yeah.
For me, that's something that mostly does, single entry, maybe 4 entries on a night. I can't get to him. Like you mentioned that, yeah, when he's low, and that's probably the night you want to be on him because you never know when he's going to go off. But like he hasn't went off this year, especially considering this price tag. Like I don't think he's hit value once this season. Like concern maybe he hit value, I guess last. No, I mean sort of, but like not
Sort of.
exceeding value once.
Yeah, I'd rather just get to Kuz from Washington, and then just looking at the salaries, like Drew Holiday is $100 more on DraftKings, and I'm getting 30+% of Drew Holiday in that last round. I got 0% of Jordan Poole, so
Okay, that makes sense. Let's just sort by value on both sites real quick. So Derek White is pulling in as one of the better values. We did have a question about Derek White as well. So let's kind of talk about that. Like, I don't see him being like a must play at his price tag. Is that kind of your thoughts on him?
yeah, I'm not very interested in Derek White. I think I would just pay a little bit more for Drew Holiday. Derek White's a great basketball player, and he should have an increased role today, but I would rather get the I don't know, I guess the boost that Drew Holiday is going to get today, even if he's a few $100s more.
Just safer almost. It's kind of my thoughts. And we have the two Milwaukee players pulling in as value. And to me, it almost seems like a one or the other type of situation here because I expect Damian Lillard to soak up the usage that Giannis had when Lillard was off the court. So I do think it's going to be one player concentrated tonight for the Bucks and then just some other secondary player going off. And to me, it's either going to be Marjon Beauchamp or it's going to be Malik Beasley. Beauchamp's kind of pulling in chalk on DraftKings. On FanDuel, 7%. That might be a spot. But I don't know if we want to go too crazy with either of them. What are your kind of general thoughts there?
So I think I am going to have to set a rule, and it might be a mistake, but I think I'm going to do play max one of this group: Marjon Beauchamp,
Yeah.
Malik Beasley, and Pat Connaughton. Sure,
Yeah.
two of them can get there in the same day, but we do have a few other value options on the other teams, and
That,
I'm playing a lot of Bobby Portis. I'm interested in Dame, so I think I'm going to max one of those guys.
that's just it. There's other value plays that would be more likely or just as likely to hit value as well. So I get that. And then we actually have Mitchell pulling in as a good value still. Drew Holiday, Fox. We didn't mention Fox. I do feel like Fox is definitely too cheap on DraftKings, and we see that with his FanDuel price being $1,000 more expensive. Only 12% owned. Came back, had a good game. He's going against the worst team in the league per Chuck. What are your kind of thoughts with Fox tonight?
Well, first of all, the Lakers are the third worst team. The Grizzlies and the Wizards are definitely worse. But it's
You're right.
it's a great matchup for Fox and Sabonis. I feel like he has a pretty safe floor, and he's shown a little bit of a ceiling. But I think we can get to other guys from Sacramento. So
Mhm.
Fox and Keegan Murray are actually. We'll get to him on forwards, but those are the
Yeah.
two spots on Sacramento I'm looking at the most.
Yeah, actually, it's one of those weird things where it's kind of like Josh Giddey when SGA is on the court, it actually helps him. That's apparently what's happening with Keegan Murray. But hey, that's a good segue. We'll actually just go ahead and get into the forwards here. So we'll just kind of just mention Keegan Murray as a play here, unless there was another guard you wanted to mention.
I wanted to talk about Peyton Pritchard again real quick
Yeah.
because I said I didn't like him. Do you like Peyton Pritchard?
Um, as it sits right now, I like him. Yes. Do I love him? Is he a must play? I don't know. This is honestly a slate. Well, I'll probably default to the data a little bit more and then maybe put in the one or two players that I'm more gung ho on than the field.
Yeah, I mean the model's telling us he's a top guard value, and so it's
Mhm.
something to pay attention to.
I like that
I
he's shooting guard eligible. I'll mention that.
Yeah, I think I might get to a little more Peyton Pritchard than I initially thought. I'm not going to go crazy on him, but he is going to end up in there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you got Marjon Beauchamp or Pritchard. It's kind of a weird slate there. Um, yeah, I was just trying to read a question about someone screwing Bobby Porter screwing them. That hurts. That hurts, buddy. So yeah, let's move on to forward. So we mentioned kind of Keegan Murray here. So Keegan Murray, I do see getting a bigger boost, and we look at the price tag. He could potentially be someone that gets 38 minutes, 40 or so minutes. Like he's been getting a heavy minute share and get us 40 fantasy points at 6.4, at least on DraftKings. I'll pull up his FanDuel pricing. You kind of mentioned him. What are your thoughts on Keegan Murray?
So the first thing I notice is I talk about this sometimes where I really hate to disagree with the model, but I think that the minutes are too under projected today. I think like maybe a lot of time he'll play 34 minutes, but he has the potential to play 40 minutes. And if the model had his projected minutes at 40 minutes, he would be showing up much higher in the OF index. Much higher in DK value. I mean, just figure, give him an extra 20% OF index, give him an extra 20% DK value and FD value for that matter, and he's going to show up much higher. And at 1%, this might be the GPP spot. So I'm not going to go crazy on him, but
Yeah.
I think we want him in our player pools for sure.
So I will say I wouldn't say that the model's exactly wrong. I would say why we like Keegan Murray is hoping that the model is wrong in the sense that when he's playing well, he's going to get more minutes. Is pretty much it. And obviously if he's playing well, we want him in our build. So I think that's more the bet is that if he's playing well, he's going to get more minutes. And so that's pretty much what we're saying here. Mm-hmm. And then so yeah, we'll just sort by which are actually the best forward values here. And so Derek Jones, and I don't like the Dallas value. Derek Jones, Grant Williams. Grant Williams, I don't mind. We saw with Kyrie Irving out, he was someone that was a pretty consistent fantasy producer. I guess I'd be fine getting to him. But then we have Al Horford. I feel like he's maybe a little bit safer. We have Marjan there as well. Sam Hauser there. Denny there as well. Like Karis LeVert. Like we have so many good mid-tier price values at the forward spots that to me it's tough to get to any one of them, but they're all pretty good plays to end up on.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Jones Jr. showing up to the top of value is never comfortable. I did mention I was interested in Jaden Hardy and Dante Exum. I forgot to look at what their values and OF index were at, but we see Grant Williams right below Derek Jones Jr. at probably less ownership, and so it's a spot to keep in mind. I think we can get to both of them, probably not in the same lineup. And then Sam Howell. I mean, these guys are under 5K. I think they're easy to mix in.
Yeah. We'll just sort it by FanDuel value real quick. Can you hear me on this slide?
Again?
Damn. I'll go back. So that's weird. I got to figure out that slide. I just want to sort by FanDuel value as well. It doesn't really change that much. Like it's all pretty much the same. So if index wise, let's see who the pay up option, Tatum. So honestly, it's a slate where I do think we could go Tatum and Luka, but then we are sacrificing some of the mid-range value. But that's kind of the nature of the slate. It's like, do we want to do that, or do we want to go kind of a more fair and balanced approach? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that. It's just kind of mix and match, you know. Looking at it though, it tells us Jeremy Grant, is the best kind of mispriced play in terms of pay up options at 7.6. What are your kind of thoughts there?
I hate playing Jeremy Grant, man. It's like I play him on the slates when he's chalk and he does what he did yesterday, and then I don't play him on slates when he's chalk and he just goes off. It's a spot I'd prefer to get away from, but his owner, I think his price is just a little bit too high. Sure, he has that 50+ point ceiling, but if he doesn't hit that, then he's likely to just destroy our lineups. He's low owned, but I'd rather just pay a little more, get up to like Tatum, Kuzma, Zach LaVine even. So
I think, again, I don't max enter, but I think if I was doing that, I would want to bet on him getting minutes and probably be like double the field, because we haven't projected to get 37 minutes. He only played 27 minutes in the last game. Yes, it was a blowout. Yes, this game is projected to be a blowout, but he has gotten the minutes and he's shown 40 fantasy point upside. And again, that might be a little bit too thin tonight, where, you know, we do have some cheaper plays, but it feels like a jump on spot to me rather than a jump off.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Like, I love playing the guys after they fail as chalk, when they come in low owned. So if he maintains these ownerships, like I got 0% in my run, but I'll probably try to force in a couple percent if these ownerships stay like that over the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. Like we always say, like we can't predict a blowout or really when a blowout will occur. And I'm just saying, like, let's hope that it occurs later on in the game and he does get 37 minutes, because he still put up 32 fantasy points. And so you give him 10 more minutes in that game, that's at least 40, you know? So again, Cleveland, not the best matchup, but decent spot, I would say. After that, like Denny's kind of popping up as like a lower price play, but then we get into a lot of other plays like that. LeVert popping up, Bobby Portis popping up. Let's just sort by chalk real quick. So it's Portis, Beauchamp, LeVert, Patrick Williams. How would you prioritize that right now?
If Bobby Portis stays, If he actually comes in 34 and 32% owned, I think it's incorrect, even on a larger slate. I think he should be higher owned. He is a very productive player with Giannis off the court. So that's still my number one pick. And we have him projected for 28 minutes. He has the potential to play a couple more than that. Then he's okay. Pivot to Bobby Portis. I think he's fine as well. I'm probably going to get to a lot of Jason Tatum, though.
Honestly, this slate is seeming like a slate I want to do studs and duds. Like we haven't had many of those, it seems like this so far, but it kind of seems like the slate to do that. And
I think so.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and move on into the centers here real quickly. I guess we'll take a peek at some questions if they're coming in. Not too many. Favorite small forward play? Tatum, right?
Yeah, I think so. Overall, Tatum or maybe some combination of LeVert and Strus.
Yeah, and then let's see some other ones here. Someone saying what's up. If you're doing one lineup, top value play and mid tier guy. So top value play right now, was it Marjan?
I actually didn't get too much Marjan in my stuff. Like I need to rerun everything, but Bobby Portis is my favorite mid range play for sure. If Sam Hauser is starting, it might be Sam Hauser. Josh Green is actually popping a little bit for me too. We didn't really mention him. I don't know. We got to see starting lineups.
Yeah. So hopefully we get those here. Let's see here. Someone saying that they love Hardy. Yeah, I mean, GPP play, if he does get minutes, sure, he could pop off. If you want to be overweight in the field, kind of go for it. It's risky, but it could pay off. Drummond, he's going to smash. Why? Why? Let's see. There's nothing to that, right? That's just hoping. He's too high priced. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and the lowest total game at a price higher than we're used to paying for him. Even at 1%, I don't think I'm getting there. I know I'm not getting there.
We got a question about Pascal Siakam. I do think he becomes slightly more appealing tonight with Giannis out. Going against Bobby Portis a little bit, maybe, I don't know, Pat Connaughton a little. I don't know. It's probably just Portis and maybe Pat Connaughton. Honestly, I don't know. So he does get a little bit better of a matchup. I would say 4%. His ownerships are probably correct. What do you think there?
I like the ownership on DraftKings. The price is a little bit higher, but we were used to seeing him as a 9K guy last year. And then on FanDuel 8,300 at 17%, that's a spot I'd like to get to as well. I like him and Scotty. Like him and Scotty a lot. If Dennis Schroeder, I think he was questionable. If he gets ruled out, then they're going to look even better.
Yeah.
And then just in case, like Grady Dick and Malachi Flynn would be a little bit interesting if Schroeder's ruled out. So this slate just got.
I hope that doesn't happen. I want him to play just for that. Honestly, I think Grady Dick would be the best value play then on the slate.
Yeah, I was talking about. I like Malachi Flynn better last time, but in the last game we saw, it seemed like they were trying to get Grady Dick going. So we'll have to see what that lineup looks like, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So Ken has given us a question about centers. So let's go ahead and jump on into the centers. And it's a very valid question. We have so many good center plays. Let's talk about the centers literally just from that Washington Dallas game, because I do think it's very valid. Shout out to you for the Gafford call a couple nights ago or whenever that was. Was it last night? I don't know. They all blended together, but he went off and you nailed that.
Yeah, he got the minutes is the main thing. Like he's been one of the most efficient centers. He just doesn't play minutes. We haven't predicted for 25. And so the 6,300 on FanDuel, we can only play one center there. I'm probably not going to get there, maybe a couple percent, but on FanDuel or DraftKings, I'm sorry, at 5,400 at 3% owned in this extremely high total game, like he should be more than 3% owned against Dallas. Like I think centers versus Dallas is a thing. I've been talking about it. It hasn't really failed yet. And Derek Lively on the other side seems good too. Both of these guys at 3% owned is insane. I think we can get over on both of them.
So my question would become, can we play both of them? Obviously on DraftKings.
I think so. Just because I do like Vooch. I like Anthony Davis. But there's no other pure center I'm dying to get to.
I guess combined, can they put up, let's say 75 combined fantasy points?
So could. I don't know. 75 might be high. 70
Yeah.
sounds better, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like we don't find much positive correlation in the NBA. But this is a
Uh-huh.
situation where if one of them plays more, the other one is likely to play more as well. And so
Mhm.
if we have both of them on the court for more minutes, that's great. And I think even in the Daniel, who was it? Maybe it was a couple slates ago, but when Daniel Gafford went against Mark Williams, they both did very well.
Mhm.
Mark Williams destroyed, Gafford exceeded value. And so, yeah, if they yeah, I think it's a slight positive correlation, just
Yeah.
possibility that they both play more minutes.
Yeah, and then the other place in that price tag range, we got a question about Mitchell Robinson, GPP play, FanDuel. Yeah, we got him right there. We also have Brooke Lopez right there. So let's just talk about those two. Mitchell Robinson obviously coming in lesser owned because he's more risky. Projected to get 31 minutes, so that is interesting there. Do you like either of those two?
I like Mitchell Robinson at the low ownership. Yeah, always a guy I'm willing to play. It's not a tough matchup against Atlanta, and it's basically just a minutes thing. Like I don't know if it's how Tibbs is feeling today or whatever, but if Mitchell Robinson stays on the court, kind of similar to Daniel Gafford, very efficient in the minutes that he gets, and at these ownerships, we should be interested.
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the slate, it feels like I'm going to be fading some of the chalk, like Randall, like Vooch, like Evan Mobley, simply because I think we got some similar upside at the 6K to 5K price tag range.
Yeah, I don't know if it was with you or with Nick, but last time I mentioned Vooch was my favorite overall center on the slate, and he ended up killing off. He was great, and I still like Vooch tonight. He's
Mhm.
chalk, but this low total game kind of scares me. I mean, he's playing against Orlando, so some people could say like revenge narrative, but it's been like 7 years. It doesn't really matter, and I don't think he's
Yeah,
bad
no.
at them. But
He
even the other
takes
guys, like yeah, right. Like AD, I think is the only true pay up center I'll get to. Maybe Embiid if he's ruled in, and then like Cat and Julius Randle, I'm still interested in, but we can play them at power forward and
Yeah.
Siakam too.
Yep, exactly. What about Aiden? 6%, 3%. Again, like if we're hoping that that game stays close enough for long enough, any look for him? And if not, are we looking at Jabari Walker as a value play?
I don't think so. Like the argument in favor of Aiton is that Cleveland has two bigs, and so it's likely that he has to stay on the court. I mean, 34 minutes of Aiton should be okay at this price tag, but I would just take the savings and go down to Gafford, Lively, Mitchell Robinson, even, and pay up for like Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Um, let's see here. We didn't really mention Lopez too much. I'm fine with him at his ownership. I would say that's correct. 14%, 19%. I'm kind of fine with that. What about you? Or too high?
I actually am kind of surprised. I got 0% in my last run. I might force in a couple. But he's similar price to the other guys at lower ownership. I don't think his ceiling is that much more than the other guys. And so I might just take the leverage and go with those three centers. Yeah. Mitchell Robinson, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. I mean, they're deep shots, but if it
Yeah.
works out, then you're in a good spot to win a tournament.
Yeah, I'm looking at him like we really need Lopez to actually get 30 minutes in a game for once for him to crush. Because I do think that possibility is there. Like against New York, he had 36 minutes, had 38 DraftKings points. I do think that possibility is there as, with Giannis off the court. So maybe I'm saying maybe try to force in a little bit, but we only have him projected to get 29. So I'm saying that's probably right as well. It's a weird spot for sure because Portis is probably safer with more upside. Is that?
Yeah, I will say that Brooke Lopez is the top of value on both sides at center
Yep.
by quite a bit. So it's something to pay
Yep.
attention to.
Yeah, it's a weird slate. So we got some more questions coming in. Kind of just saying Caruso's playing. Let's kind of talk about that real quick. So kind of wondering about Kobe White. Were you getting to Kobe White in general, or or not? You were.
It's unfortunate, but I was, yeah. It just Demar's out. His usage has been great. He's been pretty consistent this year. He's showing improvement. So again, it's not the game we want to target, but I am getting a little bit more Kobe White than I'm comfortable with. I'll probably try to swap a little bit of him out to get some more Alex Caruso.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question in the chat, Malachi Flynn closed last game. Yeah, so Otto Porter was chalk, and a lot of the reason I was okay playing with him because I thought he was going to close. He did not. He started the second half, checked out after 4 minutes, and then never came back in the game. But Malachi Flynn played like more than 12 minutes in the second half, and he did close the game. So that's pretty huge for him. Chris Boucher also closed the game, played the entire fourth quarter. So that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, they don't like Jakob Pertl there. They hate him. I don't expect him to get traded. It's weird.
I wish they would, because he's a talented player. I mean, he also didn't play in the fourth quarter. He played a long stint in the third and never came back in again. And like they were playing against Washington, Gafford didn't close either. So maybe it's different if Gafford closed. But yeah, both teams just went small.
True. So we're kind of at the point of the night where we kind of like to give a somewhat of a sample process build. And we got a question about Josh Hart. I feel like Josh Hart, it might actually be somewhat of a starting point, maybe not anymore. And I say tonight, we probably want to do two types of builds, studs and duds, and kind of a fair and balanced build. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. There's a few mid-range options we're interested in, but maybe just get one less stud, like play two studs, a couple cheap guys, and then fill in the rest with mid-range, like Josh Hart, Bobby Portis. But Josh Hart at 5%, even at this 5,700 price, it's a spot I'm willing to go. 5,300 on FanDuel at 20% ownership. It's also a spot I'm willing to go. So don't forget about Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, it's one of those weird situations where it's I've given out too many of these, but it's almost like if you're not playing hard, you want to get to Quentin Grimes because he's probably going to get minutes. Now, he's not shooting the basketball a lot, but he does other things. He can get some blocks, he can get some steals. Maybe a little bit too thin, but I don't hate it. I can definitely see that happening.
And quickly too. I mean, he kind of failed last time when people went to him over Josh Hart. They saw Josh Hart, so now they're probably going to flock to Josh Hart a little bit more. But this is a great game for Emmanuel quickly. So I think we want to be over the field on him too.
What about DiVincenzo though? Like, I know we didn't mention him, but I could see him being another fold in that where maybe it's not a Josh Hart night, maybe it's not a Quickly night, maybe I would actually like him probably more than Grimes. Like if he gets minutes, he's been a pretty decent producer and he's at a low price tag.
We just have so many of these like pseudo value guys that could do stuff, and it's like, you know, mix them up. I mean, yeah, I don't mind playing Dante DiVincenzo either. There's just so many of these guys. We're gonna have to make decisions.
Yeah. So Courtney's asking like what price range is considered a stud. I typically would say like honestly like 8.5 and up, 9 and up, 9K and up. What about you?
On today's slate, I'm looking at like Jalen Brunson's 8K, Julius Randle's 82. I consider both of them studs, so probably everyone those two and above.
Yeah, I gotcha. Right now, I have Luka and Tatum in there, so really studs there.
Yeah, super studs. Which I mean, they're the two top of the model plays, along with Anthony Davis and Donovan Mitchell. Like, I think we should be mixing these guys up, and then I guess we're mixing up some of these deep value plays we're talking about. So
yeah,
it's a good slate for high risk tournaments.
So yeah, let's just kind of do that real quick. So I just refreshed it. Let's start with the value. So we got Lopez, Marjan, Pritchard. And so I want to get some 3K. So we'll go Marjan, we'll go Pritchard. Was there anyone else we mentioned? Like that was under 4K?
There's no one showing up near the top of the mod. I mean, unless we want to get super deep and go to someone on the Mavericks.
Yeah, no, not yet. So, I mean, this is actually interesting, though. I'll go Brook in there at the center just because it was the top value. And then we still have 5.1 left over with 3 slots left to go. Who would be next? Beasley, potentially, or Pat Connaughton, maybe Sam Hauser, Derek Jones, Grant Williams. Like, there's a lot of decent options right there for sure.
It's a little awkward if you're hand building to play Bobby Portis with Brook Lopez, but I think it's okay. Yeah. We don't necessarily have to go there in this build. I wouldn't mind putting in Max Strus at one of the forward spots. He's pretty cheap on DraftKings, I think.
Yeah, that'd work. And kind of a pivot off of a Chalky or Hart, I guess. You know, it works. Guard wise, let's see. It doesn't matter to at Beasley, I guess, whatever. Like, I don't know. I kind of want the news now. Let's get the Grady Dick chalk night. So like we can really do a studs and duds night.
I was going to say Patrick Williams was interesting as well.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't want to go, we could put Strus at guard, I think, and then Patrick Williams at forward. And I think that leaves enough to get us to another one of those good center plays in that 5.5K range.
Yeah, I'd like that idea. Let's see here. Now, obviously, could go Josh Hart there as well. Portis as well, like Josh Hart. Like right there. So pretty good. Now let's just kind of switch up and do more of a maybe more fair and balanced approach. So I'll get off of those two, just clear it. And to me, so you like, I don't know. I like Lillard. Do you like Mitchell more?
I feel like I like them both. I'd have to see what the ownerships end up looking like closer to lock, but Lillard has not been good. But without Giannis, I mean, we saw him completely destroy on Portland last year. The only player that's going to take away usage from him today is really Bobby Portis. So I like them both. Model strongly prefers Donovan Mitchell, though.
Mm-hmm. So we can go Mitchell for now, or Fox as well, I guess. Model like
Either,
Fox.
yeah, either or. I'm fine with both of those guys. Love them both.
Let's go with Fox, just more of a fair and balanced type of play. We could probably still go Murray, but let's look at some other shooting guards here. Then LeVert, Levine. It's okay.
If we're going a little more balanced, I think we should put in LeVert and Bobby Portis.
Okay.
Or Strus instead of LeVert, whichever way we want to go.
I'm gonna go LeVert for this one, just because it does seem like either or. And we'll go Hart in there at the small forward spot, then Portis.
I like it.
And then we could do, I was gonna say Gafford or Lively, but maybe Al Horford. I know he's power forward. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. That's just a toss up right there. It really is.
So I love that the model doesn't love Al Horford today, because it gives me a little confirmation that I don't have to play him.
Yeah, right. I mean, that just means Tatum then. Like, to me, that's what that's telling us.
Yeah, I mean, I really think Tatum and this is a more balanced build, but I really think Tatum and Luka are two very, very strong plays today if they're not going to pull all the ownership anyway.
Yeah. I mean, when we sort it by value or even OF index, like, no, value, it tells us to play the $2 value, and then OF index, it's really telling us play Luka or Tatum or Tatum, I guess I should say. So it's interesting. We didn't really mention Anthony Davis. Is he correctly priced now? Like, before we were kind of jamming him in while he's under 10K on DraftKings at least?
No, I mean 10-2. I still think he should be over 11K. He lost minutes last night. If he got that last 8-minute rotation, like, he still met value last night, but he lost. He didn't play the whole fourth quarter because Lakers were blowing him out. Set the franchise record for threes in a game. I still think he's too cheap at 3%. People are going to go to the other spots. And like I said, there are cheaper centers that I do like, but we can play 2 on DraftKings. And Anthony Davis has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, a little harder to get there. But 3% on DraftKings, like, I am just going to be over on this guy every single night until they raise his price if he's coming in at this low ownership.
Yeah, and I guess he's really only not done well on 2 slates this season other than the opening game. So
yeah, and like a lot of those like crush games have been with LeBron in, so it's not like LeBron in is a detriment to Anthony Davis. I mean, I think he's such a good GPP play at that ownership.
Mm-hmm. We got another question kind of about, or just more of a statement about Julius Randle. Do we like him tonight as like a stud, as someone we're going out of our way to play?
He feels kind of safe to me. If you play cash and NBA still, then he feels like a really good spot to get to. I look at him and Cat very similarly. I'm interested in both at the power forward position at that 8K price. And Atlanta's a good game environment for Julius Randle. So I do like, I'm getting to a ton of Julius in my build right now. So I still like him a lot. But I am going to try to prioritize the other guys we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Had a question about if we could do like a 3-game slate build. No, not on today's stream. We're kind of running a little bit late. So apologies for that. Real quickly, going to give a Discord chat plug, and then we'll kind of be trying to finish it up here. So the Discord's probably going live right now. So if you guys are Occupied Fantasy members, jump in there right now. If you're not, try to jump in there as well. Link to that's going to be in the description below. Pretty much, we can't be answering all the questions, especially when we have these many views, which we love, guys. Make sure to be coming in again tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, get those asked earlier on in the videos. Make sure to like the video. But you guys will be able to get your questions asked more directly in there, especially up until lineup lock. So we're probably going to be leaving here out in the next few minutes. So jump in there now if you guys want, or wait until we end the live stream here.
And answer this last question, Javad. Would we play Tatum and Luka in cash? Yes.
Oh, Yeah, that seems logical tonight. And then just real quickly, I want to refresh my news to see if we got any more news in terms of who's in or out. Have you seen anything else?
No, I've been refreshing. I haven't seen anything else. Just the Magic starting lineup. It's what we expected with a Black starting at point guard position. Yeah, haven't gotten anything else though.
Yeah, so the Dennis Schroeder, that's huge.
I almost want him to play because I'm not interested in playing Dennis Schroeder tonight, and it's just less decisions that I have to make.
I don't want to have to pop open my laptop, an hour after the lineup lock to adjust that.
Right.
All right, so yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Any kind of final thoughts here?
Nope, I think we nailed it. Shout out to you. Great host as always, and good luck today, guys.
Yep, good luck, guys. Thanks for being here.